Right. Welcome to the downside. My name is Gianmarco Soresi. I'm here with my co-host
Russell Daniels.
Russell Daniels. How you doing, Russell?
I'm good. How are you?
You had a weekend without the wife.
Weekend without the wife.
So you're
What are you gonna say?
I was trying something about being the no more cum inside you. Just a lot of jerking off.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. We have a guest.
We have a
What an
guest.
inappropriate way to speak.
What a way to start.
We're joined
No more.
by a stand-up comedian, writer, performer Tina Friml.
Hi.
How are you, Tina?
I'm okay.
There you go. That's the mood. This is the downside.
1, 2, 3. Downside.
You're listening to The Downside
The downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.
We're happy to have you. I apologize for my co-host behavior starting
Yeah,
off the podcast.
yeah. I'm
so
sorry.
early.
Reckless.
So sorry.
Reckless.
This is a very exciting time. My sister, a younger sister, she's a dancer. She was in
I
Coachella
saw.
last night.
I
Oh
saw
my
the
God.
pictures.
Big booking
Like on stage.
on stage. Yeah, not in the.
Who was she
got
dancing
tickets.
with?
She was dancing. Her name's Carol G.
You could have said anyone, and I would have been like, never heard
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
Anyone at Coachella.
Love Carol. Love her.
Well, she's a Spanish singer. I don't know what kind of music. It was strange because about halfway through she started singing Shakira,
Oh.
and I was like, you can just do that on the stage. And then she did the Macarena. She sang the Macarena, and I watched my sister, who's been dancing for 15
Do the
years,
Macarena
do
professionally?
the Macarena.
Oh.
And I'm like, my sister went to Vegas. They built a practice stage in Vegas, and they're all just doing the Macarena.
What time was you watched the live stream of it?
Watched the live stream. I think it was probably like 8:30. It was that cool. She got the good slot where like the sun's going down
Oh, nice.
as you're performing.
Nice.
And it was like nothing too crazy dance wise. You know, like it wasn't like there's a WAP level sex dance. Like in terms of like there was some thrusting and sexuality.
yeah. Oh,
But then
yeah.
they did this move since we're recording where like she flipped all the dancers like flipped over and they went like this and like with two fingers in their pussy.
2 fingers.
And where something about
my
it was so
God.
where I was with Tova and we were both like, whoa, Jesus
Wow.
Christ.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it was very graphic.
In a weird way, yeah, the fingers are what matters. If it was like an open palm,
Yes.
whole hand, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, whoa.
This was
Jeez.
and that's always been the case like with dance. I mean, you see dance is partially it's about sex, it's about like your body and you see my sister was a dancer when she was young, and so they have these 5-year-old girls doing these dances where like the moves are about their hips and their
Yeah.
things. And one time we saw my sister as a final dress rehearsal for something, and she like crawled across the stage with her legs dragging, and then she said my stepdad, her dad was in the audience, and she was like, "Hi, Dad," and it was the funniest shit.
Oh my God.
I think I mentioned on this, I used to take a hip hop class with my sister where I was like truly awful.
Yeah.
But her teacher's name was Carly, so they all got jackets. They went by C Unit.
Oh.
And I don't know
How
if you can see
old
where
were
this is
you
going,
when this is happening?
but their hair was so long that every once in a while it would cover up the eye, and
Oh,
all
that's
these girls would be
so
dancing,
funny.
and it just said "cunt" on every single one of their backs. And it was at that age where like no one could really say it.
Yeah.
but
How
it was
old were
there.
you?
I was probably like 15. She was probably like 8 or 9.
Were you the only male in the hip hop class?
Yeah. And I was the only one of that age.
Did you have a jacket that said cunt?
No, I don't think I made the team. I just did this one dance. If I
Okay.
can find it, it was
Yeah.
humiliating.
That would have been iconic though. Just like as a guy with that jacket, like just God.
Yeah.
Hey, did you ever dance? Were you ever a dancer?
Oh, okay. So kind of like back in high school.
Uh-huh.
I think I did the whole like interpretive elective kind of like dance.
Yeah.
Like taught by actually I think she had to be 75, and I grew up in Vermont, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like definite hippie. And she had this whole choreographed dance, and by the way, I was like 13, 14, weighed about 2 pounds at the time. And so I was the one that got picked up and like thrown around and like fountained. They were trying to make like a human fountain kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was the water.
Sure.
And so they just kind of hoisted me up, and at the time it was before I knew the magic of deodorant. So I was that girl that like and
They were throwing you away just as far away as they could.
They were just God, and it was actually a guy that like at the time in that certain semester, like I had a crush on him, and so looking back, it's mortifying. Just
Sure. When did you find out about deodorant? Before today, right?
Probably like 2.5 years after that. Like,
who told you? Who was the one that said like, "Girl, you stink"?
It was actually a friend of mine. That's
a good friend.
I know.
It's a good friend.
Like,
That's not an easy thing to do.
We have a friend who had a story about telling someone that they smelled bad.
What did they do?
And well, basically, this person was like, had no idea, and finally, our friend was just like, sat them down and said like, you need to wear real deodorant. You really smell bad, and he said his life turned around after that. Like, this is from our friend.
He gets a raise.
But he met someone. He got married. Like had a normal life after that. But that's just very funny.
Had a normal life. I think I've said it once before where I think I had some BO. And I would use like the Axe type stuff, like spray.
Oh yeah, you can't.
I had a friend. I guess I had freshman year of college. I had bad body odor sometimes, and my roommate, Connor Moore, he was too scared to tell me, so he used to Febreze my clothes.
Oh man.
As if that would do the trick, just like adding some Febreze to all my clothes just throughout my whole closet. I'd be like, why are all my shirts damp?
Yeah.
But that was his solution. And I don't know what happened. I think I realized on my own after that. And now I'm very self-conscious about it. I'd be mortified.
Yeah.
But your friend, how did your friend tell you?
The way that she told me was because I had her over at my house all the time to like sleep over. And one day she just casually just said like, oh, every time I come in your room, it really smells like you.
Oh, I thought she was going to transfer it to like the room, but instead she brought it right back to you.
Oh wow! Every time I come in your room, it's
and
so
at the
much
time
like you.
I was so oblivious and so naive. I was like, oh, thank you. And
that makes sense. It's my room.
And like I was like, oh, is that a good thing? And she's like, no.
Oh, God.
Yeah, like straight rip off the Band-Aid. Like that's when I gained consciousness in life.
Do you wonder? Do you like? I always wonder. Do parents not like? Did your parents did you start wearing deodorant? Like, what happened after that? And then your parents were like, "Oh, you do smell better." Because I feel like it's partially the role of the parent, right, to like intervene.
Maybe, although my mom and dad, like, they're the best, and and they are also very passive. They're very non-confrontational, so they're not the kind of people that would do that. They kind of just like let it be and like she'll find out.
Yeah,
the same way that like. No one ever told me that I had the alcoholics gene. And
These are very passive parents. These are like,
yeah,
you'll figure this out. You have this gene.
Well, I now have a joke about it because I joke that someone somewhere was just like, oh yeah, I just get her out there into the world, like go off into college and just weird things start happening. She'll figure it out, but
who has it? Which parent? Like, it's kind of loose, I guess, the term alcoholic gene, but like,
It was not so much my parents at all. Thankfully, I got very lucky, but my grandparents, and it was just kind of like deep in the roots, I guess.
Yeah.
And I got very, very fortunate. I got dealt a very good hand in that both of my parents saw how it affects their relatives and their parents and their.
So they don't drink.
Well, my dad does. They did, but they kind of kept it like on tap.
Yeah.
Which again, like, just thank God. Like I'm so lucky that they just had the control to do that. But,
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's still like I know that when I began drinking in freshman year of college, I got like the minute that I did it for the first time, I was like, oh my God, this exists. And
What was it? Was it, do you like the taste, or is it just that the feeling is so seductive?
Yeah, well, I remember the first time that I ever got drunk was Halloween weekend of freshman year, and I felt like I was dreaming. It was to this day the best drunk I've ever had.
The best I've ever felt. Halloween freshman year.
Yeah.
What was your costume?
This is really bad. It was Sexy Steve from Blue's Clues.
Oh.
At least that's more inventive than like Sexy Cat, Sexy Bunny,
yeah.
sexy childhood TV show star.
Yeah, well, I had this like a strapless dress that had like the green, light green, dark green stripes.
Yeah.
And I just happened to have it. I got it at like a thrift shop, and that perfect. And so like I got a face paint. I did the whole Blue's Clues like paw print on my face and on my chest. Yeah.
And you were wasted too. I like a kid seeing that and going like, what happened to?
Oh gosh, there are actually still pictures that I cherish now, because and they're blurry, and it's me in that dress just sprinting down a bike path, just like pew. Probably the fastest I've ever run, and I was running because we were late for a Rocky Horror Picture Show production on my campus, and I just was the worst case scenario ever. So I was.
Did you throw up?
Not that time, and I should have, because then I think it would have deterred me.
Yeah.
But the first time I got off kind of like scot-free.
Sure.
And then I remember like it hit right away. Like the next day, I had that thought that, oh my God, that was the best night I think I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I alcohol was just the best thing ever, and I didn't know the consequence. I didn't know what a hangover felt like. And I just started to like be like, oh my God, I can drink at anything.
Yeah.
And I began to be like, well, if I can drink on Friday, why not like a Wednesday? Like, it was immediate.
11 p.m. Why not 11 a.m.?
It was really kind of out of character for me, because I've never really been kind of deviant person. Or
Well, you didn't drink until college. That's late.
Yeah.
What was your first drunk?
Not till later in high school. I'd say the junior senior year. And it was it was hard in a small town to get it. Like truly, like I remember one time, one of the first times that I got it, we were like driving to like into the deep woods and meeting someone, and I remember me and my friends, I think we spent like $40 for like a 6-pack. Do you know what I mean? Like we were
Like someone bought it for you.
It was but someone an older bought it, and then like
That's, that's a mean price.
we each had like 2 beers each, and that was it. But it was like we spent so much, so it was harder to get in a small town.
My first was my dad. I found a like old, I think it was Scotch, and my dad never really drank, but he had this cabinet liquor decades old, and I took 1 shot. And I think that I found a shot glass, and then I was alone, and I walked in like a line to see if I felt it, and then I took a second shot. I think I took 3, and I've definitely felt something.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I was really into frappuccinos from Starbucks, like the caramel frappuccino. This was like a new thing,
Yeah.
and I was eating them all the time. And I got it, and then my dad, we went driving, and I had to I threw up. We pulled over to the side of the road, but I threw up so bad that I could never have frappuccinos again. Like it automatically connected to that.
Oh God.
And so I knew right away. And I didn't like it. I don't like feeling that way.
Yeah.
A hangover is enough to deter me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From now, you like to drink.
I do. Yeah.
What's the difference between you and an alcoholic? Do you ever wonder? Did you ever worry? Do you ever get scared?
I definitely have phases where I am conscious of like, okay, like you have to like have a healthier sort of thing, because it's hard, because sometimes if you're having you definitely go through phases, but like sometimes you're like, like for instance this week I'm like, oh, it's my birthday, oh, I have the show, oh, and then you're like, that's a slippery slope of like, then there's like 3 or 4 nights where and then you're like,
Right.
oh, and then usually when I recognize that, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm technically on a bender, not like I'm
Sure.
not drinking during the day or anything like that, but
Yeah.
like there's a thing where you're like, I am conscious of it, and it does run in my family too, but the problem would be if I had it, I'd be pretty high functioning and
yeah.
and like not getting crazy mean or like having like outbursts or things like that. So I evaluate it and try to like keep it to a controlled thing, and I feel like I do a pretty good job.
I just don't. I'm not drawn to it. I came up with a rule pretty quick with comedy clubs where it was just like, I'm not going to use this drink ticket every time.
Yeah.
But it was more like I didn't want like a beer. It was more about calories, frankly.
Well, yeah.
More about
yeah.
calories. And then now I headline on like the road, and like it's nice to have a beer when you're doing an hour, but then it's like, well, if you have a beer for the first show and the second show,
Right.
I get a little slurrier. I start saying slurs like every single joke. And no, it's just like I start slipping up on a couple words here and there, and I go like, I don't like that. So now I try to keep it to 1, or I'll have like half a beer for the first show and then a fresh beer, half that for the second show in a day.
Yeah.
You
A lot of
know,
waste.
in a weird way, and I know this is the polar opposite of what a lot of people go through, but when I got into comedy right after college, it alleviated that concern that I was drinking too much, because
You're like, wow, I'm really
You
responsible.
see everyone else, yeah.
yeah, because every time I went, like, I was no longer ever going out to just hang out. I was going out to perform. And the other thing that I should know is, thankfully, even though like I got really into it, but I quickly, like after maybe half a year, the morality caught up, and I kind of thought, wait, this is bad. Like
To be drinking.
yeah. And I quickly kind of got a hold of it, and like I still drink now, but it's far less. And I think that's in part to do with age, and but also just well, I know like a lot of people, they say that they're just addicted in their personality, no matter what. So I think like after I got into comedy and I got so kind of focused on my routine and how I did, what the crowd thought and all this stuff, and that became a bit more of an addiction.
Sure,
Yeah,
you found a
yeah.
new addiction
And-
to supersede the existing one.
I mean, thankfully it was never an actual addiction for me, but it was just kind of like, and I may be blowing this a bit out of proportion. I think that a lot of people, like, when they discover drinking, they have a similar thing, like, oh my God, this is awesome. And then they kind of, like, tone it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely, the older that, I feel like with every year, the older that I get, the less and less I have to keep track of how much I'm drinking. Like, oh, well, I had 3 tonight, so maybe not tomorrow, and maybe the next day I'll have 2 or whatever.
Yeah, you're like, I had 9 tonight, and so
No,
tomorrow, 4.5.
No, but it is a thing. I do, because then I'll be like, oh, I'm not gonna really drink for a few weeks, and like, because it's never been like an out of control thing, but like there's times where I'm like, I don't feel.
Yeah.
I feel like not because of actions or things, but you're like, I feel gross.
Sure.
You know, like if you have a few nights in a row where you're like having a thing, and then you're like, oh God, like this is not a. But I do have it's an interesting thing, because it's definitely part of my life. I enjoy it. Like, I like good food. I like good drink. It's like
Yeah.
I
don't like the taste very much.
Oh yeah.
And it's a nice deterrent.
Yeah.
It's a nice deterrent. Like scotch or whiskey.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to be that guy when I feel sad.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I feel
I'd
the same
love
way
to
about
do this.
pot. I just don't have like
I know.
I
I'd
don't
love
have
for
a
you
I don't have
to do more pot.
a relationship to it.
So you grew up in Vermont.
I did.
So tell me, I don't know a lot about Vermont. What's shitty about it?
Oh man. Well, I mean, there's so much good about Vermont, but there's not a whole lot happening. I mean, like,
Yeah.
we literally sell T-shirts that say what happens in Vermont stays in Vermont, but nothing really ever happens. And it's true.
What a
and-
sad shirt.
Yeah, but people take pride in that. Like, locals, I know people that live there, and they wear that shirt like all the time.
Hell yeah.
And I know I just that I always knew that I'm a doer, and I love to get out and do things and meet people and see things, and that part, like, I know that right after college, when I began to really get out of Vermont, because I grew up and then also went to college in Vermont, so it was very much a big kind of bubble. And then going to my first big city, like I went out to London a bunch. I went to Australia for study abroad, and just having not only just the things you can do out there, but just the vaster kind of variety of people out there. And like, I always say that I mean, you hear the term melting pot, but I think what I love is not only the melting pot of race and ethnicity and religion and that kind of thing, but just generally, like, personalities and stories. And in Vermont, there's definitely a type.
Yeah.
And it's not everyone, certainly. But there is, like, the older that I got in Vermont, the more that I struggled to feel like I belonged. Belonged there. And just, I don't know, well, because I got really into things like fashion and things like performing and comedy and I don't know, just really glitzy kind of things that you could only find in, like, in New York.
Yeah.
And
As opposed to like maple syrup or something.
kind of like hiking.
Yeah.
Well, hiking is great, but I know that, I couldn't really get into hiking as like a habit.
Yeah.
Like a,
People love it.
yeah.
Some people.
And of course, like snowboarding,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
skiing. I did it a bit, but I could never it wasn't like my thing.
I could never. I don't have balance. I went on the bunny hill once and I thought a bunny hill meant like from the top of the ceiling to the floor, and it was like it felt like a mountain. It felt
Yeah.
like Mount Everest to me.
Yeah.
It's the scariest shit I've ever done.
None of it.
And then someone died recently. An actor died. There was an actor a long time ago, a famous actress.
All the time.
They hit their head, and I'm like, I don't. That's not how I
Liam
want to go.
Neeson's wife
Yeah,
died that way.
Yeah, and then some like
Well,
British actor now,
was it Sunny
Yes, Sonny Bono.
Bono?
Sonny Bono.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not famous yet. I need to be famous first before I do that.
Yeah, no, I don't like any of that sort of
Ugh.
thing. You know.
Yeah. We're inside. We're
Yeah.
at the-
Yeah.
We're drinking hot.
I
cocoa.
like sitting by a fire.
Sure.
You know,
Who doesn't like
in a
sitting by
cabin?
fire? So I watched your Drew Barrymore set.
Oh my gosh, that was
Um,
so cool.
Yeah, that was. Did you ever see any of that? It's called
didn't.
Banana Moors.
No.
Where Drew Barrymore, she like pretended like she was who started the Comedy Store? What's her name? Mitzi Short.
Mitzi Short.
And she's like Banana Moors. Look at this talent, Drew Barrymore. It's quite a watch. But you recorded it at home.
at home in my garage.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Vermont.
cool.
Yeah, it was actually it sounds awful, but it was the best thing I've ever done. Like just being in Vermont around my dad's tools, and like paint buckets and
And they add the laugh track after the fact.
oh yeah.
Do
Oh,
they
yeah.
send you anything to record with, or you just have your iPhone?
Yeah, so I got this huge kit from Anaheim, California,
Yeah.
or something. And they FedEx it, so the truck backs in, and they just dump this gigantic, like a base size thing. Oh, and yeah, it came with like a backdrop and whole camera setup and lighting and the whole shebang. And the thing is that you have to set it up all yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thankfully they had a tech guy and a producer zooming in, which they were just above and beyond awesome and so sweet and really, really helpful. But the problem was that I was out in my garage, which had like barely Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And so they kept on like breaking out, like in and out.
Yeah.
And then there was that thing with the mic, like the mic wouldn't work right. And
They were watching you do it when you were recording it.
oh
for
yeah,
real.
oh yeah.
That's stressful. That's so
Yeah.
stressful because it's just silence.
Yeah.
And you have to like hit these punchlines in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
With like a laugh track.
yeah.
And did you have like a family member like in the garage with you, like, or no,
So-
just you and the producer via Zoom?
My mom and dad at one point were like standing to the side, just kind of watching me because we were trying to troubleshoot this whole mic
Yeah.
thing, and we could not get it, and I was trying not to kind of freak out. I was maintaining a little bit of composure, but you're working with producers out in LA, and here I am in Vermont, and they're cutting out. And my mom and dad were kind of on the side, and at one point they were trying to almost sign language to me, like, can we help? Like, what can we do? And truthfully, at that very moment, they couldn't really do anything. So, and I was trying to kind of like communicate. Don't worry, like I got this. All the while, I'm trying to like talk to this guy. So they were there for immense moral support.
Yeah.
But and then kind of while I filmed, it was just me and the producer.
I mean, that's good. You have a good relationship with your parents. I would rather
man.
die than have my parents be anywhere near a vicinity of me doing stand-up. If they signed to me, I'd be like, "Oh, this is my."
Oh my
Please.
gosh. I would not be like anywhere. I mean, my parents are just the greatest parents. I got very, very fortunate in that they were so supportive and even in like crazy situations like this that they could never prepare for, like having a daughter trying to shoot this professional thing all the while I know nothing about technology, and even just them being there being like concerned about me, it's like I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
it's good. Very good.
You're the first person on this show to have a good relationship with their parents, and that's a new record. You should feel proud. I was very curious because with all the stand-up clips you have online, like you right out the gate at the very beginning of your sets, you address being disabled.
Yeah.
And like when did you start stand-up? Like was that the first thing you had to figure out? Because the whole thing is you go in front of strangers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so I began comedy about 5 years ago. And at first I really wanted to kind of talk about normal things, be just kind of a normal comic. And I know that the first open mic that I ever did, I talked about like coffee and dating and fairies and all this stuff. And
you had people there who knew you, I assume?
No.
Oh, you were up cold.
I went cold. I just, granted, I also had no microphone skills.
Sure.
So I held it way down almost by my waist, and no one could hear me.
Yeah.
Anywhere. But I kind of bombed, but then after a while I was compelled to take a stand-up comedy class.
In Vermont?
In Vermont. At the
That's
Vermont Comedy Club.
where they have the peak comedy classes in Vermont.
Yeah.
People travel from all over the world.
Well, it's like a 6-week class.
Yeah.
Co-taught by the co-owner, Nathan Hertzwick, and also Kendall Farrell.
Uh-huh.
Who's
I know
now,
Kendall.
yes, a New York comic here. And it was like a 6-week class, and we basically the end goal is come up with 5 minutes, and then do it in front of all your friends and family, and they'll love it no matter how funny it is. And that was kind of like I thought, okay, like if I do this, it will 100% tell me whether or not I'm good at this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in that class, I think the second week I got up there, and I had like a whole 5 minutes of like rough something, but right at the top I did say like, oh, before I say anything, I'm Tina, and I'm disabled, but don't worry, you're going to be okay. And so the whole classroom just kind of erupted.
Yeah.
In this really sharp kind of laughter, like 0 to 100. And that was kind of the first time that ever really happened to me. And that quickly kind of sporadically told me that, oh geez, okay, I really have to like address the big elephant in the room.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is, once I began talking about it, before I got into comedy, for the first 2 decades of my life, I never talked about it because I was in denial of it. When I was younger, I thought, well, if I never talk about it, it will just go away.
Yeah.
Like I'll grow out of it. It will be very much not a thing. And then and then after a while, when I knew that would not be the case, and when social things really did.
When was it hardest? When was there a time like when it was like high school the hardest time of just like like dealing with the way people treated you or perceptions or?
Yeah, well, definitely. 1 year, my sophomore year in college was the first time I entered a public high school.
I see.
And
okay.
before that, I was in very small private schools where everyone knew everyone, and there was virtually kind of no bullying, at least on like the surface level.
Yeah.
You're
Sure.
disabled. And so, but then going, I really, for some reason at the time, was really compelled to get the genuine high school experience. And so I convinced my mom and dad to kind of like allow me to go to the public high school.
Yeah.
And I immediately got kind of confronted with bullies. And people, they just, no holding back. They would just say whatever and laugh at me and kind of use me as leverage to be cool. You know?
That's brutal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was really like sudden and
Like at lunch or at the class, like
mainly in the hall. Yeah, mainly like literally just minding my business, walking along, and there was a certain friend group. They just loved me. They just loved to laugh at me and kind of like they would comment on just. I mean, it was kind of like the passive. You know, hi Tina, and I would say hi back, and then they would instantly break out into laughter.
Oh my God.
You know how
Nightmare.
it sounded, and unfortunately, I mean that was like okay, but then, on the school bus, I feel like a lot of people don't talk about this, but a lot of bullying happens on the bus.
sure. You're stuck in
Because-
this one space, no
Yeah.
teachers around.
Exactly. You're stuck in like this tube, with no supervision.
Ages all over
You're
the
in
place.
back. Yeah,
there's
exactly.
like little kids, older kids. It's a
Exactly.
nightmare. Yeah.
And I that's when it got like extra kind of like deep jabbing, and they would ask, oh, have you ever been kissed, and like trying like get me to like ask people out. Like it became not just, oh, you're disabled, but hey, you're disabled, and like no one likes you, and
Did you
all
ever
this
come? Did you
stuff.
just sit and take it? Did you ever like say something back?
Oh, I said something back.
What'd you say? What was your?
Well, no, it's like cause at the time it was actually the two main people that were bullies were a couple, a guy and a gal, and so I would often kind of like analyze their relationship and like I would kind of get in their head about like,
What would you say?
well, just I know that like.
You're like, well, you guys have kissed, but you felt nothing.
Well, at one point, and you know, at the time, I had no grasp on like actual relationship dynamics. So I just kind of knew what I knew from movies, and so I would tell the guy like, "Oh, she's whipping you. She like because." I think one time maybe I saw her say some command to him like, "Oh, go get my book," or "Go get," and I I tried to like latch on to that, and like I would this is so high school, but
you could do anything. You could stab him as far as I'm concerned, and I'd be like, fair.
Well, I would like draw because I was actually like really into drawing at the time, and I drew like a whip, and on like a little piece of paper that like kept on sticking it in his locker, being like,
oh my god,
oh my god,
that's so fucking funny.
You're whipped. Oh wow.
Oh my god.
And I actually got the funniest part about that is I did it enough times that I got really good at drawing whips. like really detailed drawings. And at first I didn't think that they knew that it was me, but then after a while I would
You'd put a kiss on the paper.
Yeah, you start signing your name.
well, the other thing was like this is actually deriving up like conjuring up deep memories, but after a while, and I kind of realized they didn't know who was doing it, and then whenever I would kind of walk by and they would say something snarky or passive aggressive, like, "Hey Tina, you got a date this weekend?" And I would just like very quietly under my breath be like, "Oh, psh."
Oh my god. I love these people. They just like break down at home. They like it ends with a murder suicide. They find them hanging by whips from the ceiling.
I know.
Do they end up together? Are they still together?
No.
Do you know where they are?
I do actually.
Do you ever send them a whip now on Facebook? Just send them a whip emoji.
One of them actually turned out to be. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all 14, you know. So at the end of the day, I kind of gave them the benefit of the doubt, and actually, one of the gals in that group, she came to my show, which I didn't know about, but she somehow got wind of it and brought her friends in, and at first, like, I'm sure you're thinking, like, oh god, like, really committing to the bit of, like, I thought they were all coming
Tina.
to, like, yeah.
Oh my god.
But I saw them there, and but they were genuinely there to like have a good time, and I didn't really talk to her that much after, but she seemed like a real person, like and it was really odd though, like I didn't know how to react.
Yeah.
Do you wish that, like, because I feel like we live more in a culture now of like teachers would step in. I don't know. It depends on what school you go to. Like I went to a private high school, so when I would see things like Mean Girls,
But think
I would
of
be
all
like, I'd be like, that's foreign to me. Like this world of cruelty.
Think of all the times though that you're like just people aren't seeing it. Like just like you know what I mean? Like you are
But
unsupervised.
This is brutal.
No, I know. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying like it's surprising how often, even in a setting like that where there's that many adults around, where you find yourself alone and not like with no one to see that kind of thing. But
well,
but the conversation has come far in bullying.
I think you know, looking back, because that particular high school is in a very rural part of the state, which has a lot of like farm families and that kind of thing, and I'm kind of not from that kind of very farm rural kind of thing. We just happen to live in the district, and I'm not sure. Like this is definitely a generalization in itself, but I looking back, I kind of always wondered if the reason that the bullying was so bad at that particular high school, because the next year I went to the neighboring district high school and had the best
Did
time.
you leave because of your experience?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I went to the next and no issue at all.
Sure.
And I kind of wonder, like, looking back with a little bit more of a, like, an empathetic lens, I kind of wonder if, just kids that kind of grew up in a more rural, family-oriented, upbringing, they just didn't really yet know the whole world. And so, I mean, even bigger than me and what happened to me, the basic vibe in the whole school was do not be different.
Yes.
At all.
Yes.
Like, they all
Yeah.
dress the same, like
Yep.
jeans and like a gray sweatshirt.
Yep.
Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
very kind of the worst thing that you could ever be would be different
Yeah.
in some way.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I kind of wondered if it was just unfortunate placement that I just happened to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So then you did this comedy, you had this discovery in class where you were like, oh, I have to address this for people like to, or else they're thinking or they're wondering or they're waiting for something to be said.
yeah.
Do you have any other opening lines?
Well, definitely the kind of "you're going to be okay" joke was like the reigning supreme of like ways to crack the ice.
Yeah.
And but then I have a little bit more of a different ways that I can then go about it. Recently I've actually been saying in my set that you know, a lot of people think that I suffer from cerebral palsy, but I don't. I live with cerebral palsy, but I suffer from people.
That's great.
And-
Yeah,
That's
that's
fantastic.
good.
And then that can kind of lead into like the this whole bit that I can do about things that people have said to me about it, like in high school or like now, and but you know, I definitely kind of my end goal, like the more that I get into comedy and the more that I want to begin to talk about other things and devote
Yeah.
my time to being able to talk about just other things. But I'm constantly trying to find the kind of like.
Well, it's just a comedy. It's like that
ratio
blessing
of
and
it.
curse where like America's Got Talent would probably be like, this is, yes, please. But they want you to
Yes.
talk about it right out the gate. And it's like, it's good in the
Exactly.
sense of, was there a comedian, are there any other comics like super successful that have cerebral palsy?
There's Josh Blue.
Josh Blue, who won America's Got Talent, got second on it.
He actually won Last Comic Standing.
One Last Comic
year.
Standing, and
Yeah.
then was on America's Got
I
Talent.
think so.
He's doing so well. I
Yes.
saw him he had a post about being on America's Got Talent in the finals, and someone commented, "Hey Josh, you already won one competition. This is for new comics." And but I hear he's fantastic.
Oh,
I still have
yeah.
to listen to his albums.
Well, I actually saw him one time live at JFL.
Oh, yeah?
On like a showcase.
This was when you did JFL that year?
I think the year before.
The year before.
Like I said, I'm from Vermont, which is only about an hour and a half.
Oh, I didn't know
south
that.
of
Oh.
Montreal. So, actually, part of what kind of got me into comedy was, you know, like going to Montreal and
Yeah.
checking it out and going and seeing the whole festival. But I think in 2018, me and my parents went to see that show, and he was right in the middle, and he just killed.
Yeah.
It was so fun, and like, you know, I'd seen clips on YouTube, and I was looking forward to see him live, but like not really expecting to just like fall out of my chair because I thought that I had seen it already. But I was like, it was just so funny. So that definitely inspired me. I think that year really propelled me. Like, that was the first time that I really thought, oh, this kind of narrative could fit in a much bigger kind of array of comedy. It's not like its own
For sure.
own thing like America's Got Talent is great, but it is also under that lens of inspiration and the human story, basically. I know that after seeing Josh at JFL, it really kind of thought, oh, this really could be like comedy.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the New York scene has been, I guess if you ask any comedian, has the scene been kind to you? They'd all say no. I can't think of too many comedians to be like, yeah, no complaints.
Yeah, no, like, definitely, I feel like, as far as being a disabled comic, I personally don't feel like I've been deterred.
Sure.
But, like, I don't feel, except for the very, like, certain kind of scenario where I happen to be out and about, hanging out at, like, a club or something, and I'm trying to kind of commingle with other comics, but I'm not on that night, and I don't really know anyone there, and I kind of have to go up and say, oh, hey guys, I'm actually a comic too, and
Sure.
you can definitely get the vibe of like, sure. You know,
Yeah. Though even I was once at the Green Room in New York Comedy Club about a year ago, and like a woman walked in and went, and I wasn't past her or anything, and she was like, really crowded in here today. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never leaving the house again. Oh, I feel devastated.
Oh, who was it? Just kidding.
I don't know. I don't even remember. I don't remember. She's a nobody. But yeah, it's such a cruel. It's just a cruel scene, and I imagine there's assholes out there who run comedy clubs who would be shitty about it, or who would go like, no.
You know, I thankfully thus far on the record, I have not had anything really bad said directly to me about it. That's why you're not on this. That's why you're not whatever. But like I definitely have. The thought has crossed my mind in terms of getting into comedy, and you know, like I would love to be passed at clubs, be able to perform regularly at certain clubs around Manhattan, and there is that kind of wondering of like, okay, like I wonder if I'm a fit. Like if they think it could be a fit.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing that you kind of like struggle with is not wanting to be kind of like a novelty act.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or like a token kind of like
Is there any part though where like, I think about like the college circuit or touring where some comics are like, well, I gotta figure out my hook or my thing to get out there. I know people who it's like, well, I'm a teacher, and that's their brand is I'm a school teacher.
Yeah.
So it's like there's some degree of well, you got to have a gimmick. You know that song from Gypsy?
Yeah.
Where it's like you got to have a gimmick, and it's like, well, fuck, if this is the way to get in,
right.
why not? You know, like I spend all my time, like when I walk on stage, what is my thing? I'm theater kid or something like that. So it just feels like it must be like a push and pull of it's just like if a college says, you know what, we want to have you because you're disabled and you're a comedian and it'll be, people will find the show fascinating. Like that's not inherently a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. And in that case, I'm very lucky that like I just.
That's what I was going to say. Are you appreciating how fucking lucky you are?
And I am.
Yeah.
I am appreciating because like I've always said that what comedy was kind of the perfect hole that I fell into accidentally because in my opinion comedy was the only way that I felt like I personally felt like me being disabled could be okay.
Yes.
And could actually be a strength.
Sure.
Like, in a way.
And I think there's something, I mean, this may be all art forms, I guess, but with comedy, it's the jokes. I mean, people appreciate jokes no matter what.
Yeah.
They appreciate great jokes. And like, I think it can, you know, even when comics get things for whatever reason, they get the thing. If the jokes are good, people respect that. People respect Josh Blue. I've heard so many comics talk about Josh Blue as just like a killer, just like a murderer. And like, it's just, there's something nice that can supersede all the things. And who cares how you get where you get? We all get everywhere for a myriad of reasons that are whatever, but then the comedy can shine through.
Yeah, exactly.
Even a comic I didn't like, even a comic who wouldn't like, or even an older comic who I think was hacky, if they said a good joke, I'd be like, well, that was a good joke. I mean,
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool.
Do you ever get the thing where like you're at like an open mic or at a set and a comic said a joke that's so good, so technically good that you don't even laugh, you just audibly say that's a good joke.
I was listening back to my set from last night, so I know exactly what you mean.
Like that, that really happened to me. An open mic of all things.
Yeah.
A guy, and I won't repeat the joke for his sake, but he did a joke that was very timely, but also very, very clever and very like you had it came out of nowhere.
Who was he?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. There you go.
We'll bleep
That's
it
the
out.
comedian's Jared. No, I don't think.
It
I
might
don't
have
think.
been.
I know. I was trying to.
Oh, we'll bleep it out.
Yeah, get his name in post. I think.
Gotta book this guy. Book this guy. Headline your
It
clubs.
might have been
Chris
Misha something.
Misha Han?
Maybe he
we'll
is
assume it's Misha Han.
long. He's long hair.
Oh no, not Misha Han.
No. Okay.
I was gonna put a Facebook says, "Hey, we gave you a shout out on the podcast." No name. And
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I apologize to this guy. However, this is. I feel. If you're listening, I feel your
it'd be
pain
shocking if he was listening. That'd be amazing. I'd be so flattered.
One time, maybe 2 years ago, a guy, a friend of mine, mentioned to me like, "Hey, you were just mentioned on oh my gosh, by the way, I'm so bad at
podcast?
names. Yeah, a big one.
Lori Kilmarin's one.
No,
Jackie
it
and
was
Lori.
the crashing
Pete Holmes.
P. Holmes.
Oh, you made it weird.
Yeah, you made it weird.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. I could see the cover art.
Yeah.
You made it weird. A friend of mine said, "Oh, by the way, you were mentioned on You Made It Weird," and I'm like, "What?" And I went back and lo and behold, I was. But they could not remember my name.
No.
Oh, that's-
Who said it?
Pete Holmes, because Pete was
That's so
kind enough to host our New Faces showcase.
Oh.
And he was just amazing and the best host and really got the crowd going. And it was not very long after that he was chatting away, and I think they were also talking about generally disability and difference in comedy. And he mentioned, like, oh, there was this gal that just did New Faces. She was
crazy. And then
killing it. And
I had that
remember.
recently. Someone sent it to me. Bert Kreischer had his podcast when Corinne Fisher was on, and Bert started talking about this pedophile joke that someone had shown him. And Corinne, who knows me, was like, "Oh, are you thinking Gianmarco Scorsese?" And that's the shout out I got. And I was like, God, so close, so close.
You wish your
And I
last name was
immediately wrote
Scorsese.
Bert on every app I had, like, "Hey, it was me. I'm the pedophile guy."
Yeah.
I actually did the same. I made a small attempt to try and shout out and be like, hey, like,
It was me.
thanks for the shout out.
Next episode, can you say it and spell it? And my handle is this.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw it, but even just like even that was just like in my head that lives so rent free. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I gotta
Yeah.
shout out. Like,
All right, well, let's move on to our next segment. This has got to stop.
This has gotta stop.
This has got to stop. You okay? Your head?
Oh, I was just like kind of dancing with the
I
sound
know,
effect.
it's
Yeah.
Good.
I
Um,
I know that when I've listened to this podcast before, that part always makes me jump.
oh, yeah?
Yeah, like just
This has gotta stop.
And I'll always
yeah.
be having a coffee in hand and be like,
Well, this has got to stop the sound cue being so alarming. Do you have it? This has got to stop for us?
I do. So and this is very much based on my own personal experience, but I really don't like when people they had a baby, they have a newborn, and they're announcing it on Facebook or Instagram, and they're like introducing Micah, Gerard, whatever into the world.
I like you remember the baby's name, but not the comedian you were shouting out before.
And they're like, he's 9 pounds 2 ounces, and he's perfect, and they always like to say, well it gets into like a bigger thing that I don't like. How I've always kind of thought that a lot of parents, they'll have babies and they won't fully kind of consider that they will eventually be like grown like children and then teenagers and then adults. They're always kind of like obsessing over the baby phase of it. And I think because like, well, I always get a little bit of a personal irk when they mention he's perfect, he's healthy, he's all this stuff, and admittedly that very much is bitterness because I did not have a very lovely birth. It was very traumatic, and
The birth was traumatic.
yeah.
Why was...
That's how I got this way.
It's during the birth?
Yeah, so basically what happened was that I was withheld from oxygen for remarkably I think 20 minutes. And
Outside the womb? In the womb?
oh, great question. So basically what happened was I have an older brother, and he was born via C-section.
Got it.
And when I was in labor, I accidentally I punched out the old C-section scar. So I was still in my mom, but not in the womb.
Oh my
I
god.
was swimming.
So during the
Wow.
delivery, you're moving you were going to be delivered vaginally. Is that the thing?
I guess.
And then as this is happening, you're thrashing.
And
I guess. I'm like, I guess I'm not really a patient.
This was like I didn't know the scars that fragile that a baby could punch it open. A Rocky Balboa.
It seems very impressive.
You know what? I'm not a very patient
That's what the doctor said.
person.
Wow, what a right hook on this.
Right. I always say that like I was maybe perhaps like the reincarnation of an 18-year-old boy because I thought that the vagina would be higher. No, but I'm not sure what they thought was going to originally happen, but I just kind of tore my way out, and I was still in mom, but I didn't have any oxygen, so they had to. I mean, the doctor actually, he was at home, and he had to. He actually, it's a funny story. He got in his car and he sped to the hospital, and the cop was on his tail trying to pull him over.
Fucking cops, man.
And he obviously, thankfully, didn't stop, and had like a nurse come out and like tell the cop what was happening. So shout out to nurses.
You think a doctor would have like a special siren of just like you gotta stop.
Like don't basically.
Hey, that's a brave fucking doctor. If a cop was chasing me down to get out of a car and then go into the building, even though they're like stop, woo.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's just chaos, and that's the thing. It's like I was causing chaos in the hospital, and I was causing chaos on the streets.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
This was like a town-wide event that I was coming into the world. So basically they by a miracle and by just the doctor that I had, and I think modern medicine, I was revived kind of like after 20 minutes of not
when you
being
say
able to
revived,
speak.
were you technically dead?
Yes, I was. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I know. I wish I could remember it so I could be kind of like that person that says, I know what happens.
Yeah.
Here's the secret. You could be. You just tell people
I could be.
that you saw whatever you say you saw.
I could say anything.
And who's going to say, no, you're wrong?
It was just...
Who's going to have the chutzpah to do
What's
that?
the most fucked up thing you could say that it is on the other side? You know what I mean? Like... I mean, you could really fuck with people's things.
It'd be like the ultimate prank.
Yeah. It was just like Jesus, like jerking off. Like, it just like...
Why is that where you're... I was going to think about something about like being like pro-choice. Like I was going to think like that's what was revealed. You saw all the other dead babies and they were like, we're actually happy you're here. We're happy you're here.
See, but that's nice though that they have a place.
Yeah,
all of them
sure.
together.
That's a nice thing. They're all hanging out with each other.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. That's just crazy. It's just crazy the idea of just like, well, you can be dead.
Yeah.
And then you can be alive.
And I mean, the one thing I will say, unfortunately, I do not know what happens after death. However, sorry.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Russell and I could really use some comforting about death. We are preoccupied to a sad degree.
However, like what I do know is because I've always a natural to this show, perhaps I have also always been like an optimistic person and just generally naturally kind of been really excited about life even in hard times and wanted all this. And I kind of think that that's because I'm living in like the bonus round, and I'm kind of like this wasn't 100% guaranteed, like supposed to happen. So I feel like everything every kind of milestone that I hit, or every small thing that happens in life that happens to everyone at some time, I just get like I've always gotten unnaturally excited about it. And whenever I make a new friend, I'm so excited. And whenever I go on a date, I'm so excited. And like, and just, I don't know, I've always kind of wondered if there was this unconscious kind of gratitude that I got from a tiny part of me kind of being like, this wasn't 100% supposed to happen.
Yeah. And what?
I said, you see?
Oh, that I should be
you could be
positive.
You could be a little more
optimistic.
positive. I'm saying,
But these
Oh, yeah.
these fucking parents. So something about the language of it's just like this, like saying it's perfect as opposed to being like, we had a baby, it's incredible that we had a baby.
yeah, that perfect,
I'd be more
healthy,
cynical, I'd be
that
like-
perfect healthy thing. It is just like it's an unconscious thing but it is weird.
Yeah,
It's like
so kind of going back to the point, I think there is obviously some individual bitterness I have, but I think beyond that, it's kind of like none of us are perfect, and we're all going to either okay, this is the cynical part. We're all going to develop some kind of negative thing that we have to battle with, whether it be a mental illness or a health illness or a tragedy that happened, or something that will make us very much imperfect. So I always kind of wince at like, right now they're perfect.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
you're setting yourself up for failure. I would do like, we welcomed our son Kyle into the world. Sadly, he's a school shooter, but we're gonna enjoy the first 12 years as hard as we can.
Yeah.
Before he goes off to jail.
I don't like when they so early on to like do like pretend that there's like parent characteristics that they're like she was late just like her mommy, coming, you know what I mean, or and she's stubborn already like her daddy, and you're like, it's like a 2-year-old blob of like, you're like 2-day-old. It's just like that's not no characteristics.
I've become very cognizant, especially as they talk about this "Don't Say Gay" bill and stuff, about the way that we put these heteronormative, like, oh, he's a little lady killer.
I know.
Oh, look at all his girlfriends.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why can't they just be their children?
They love going. He's such a boy.
And
you're like, just because he's like dirty.
It's a hair.
Like, they're like, oh, he's covered in dirt. He's such a boy.
It's a heroin of me, like, oh, little Johnny, what a fuck boy that is. He's the fuck boy of kindergarten for sure.
Yeah.
Oh
Let's go into our final segment.
You better count your blessings.
Once again,
I like
thinking
that
of
one.
blessings. Yeah, that's a smooth
like
one.
that.
I have one. My mom and dad came to town, and it was my mom's birthday, and we had a really nice weekend with them. And my mom, I'm thankful. It was her birthday, so I'm thankful for her. But she made me laugh last night. My brother was just joking about our mom finds a way to like tell you like a wildly sad story, like in every conversation, like, you know how parents do that sometimes, but like not intentional, like that's not really her vibe, but she somehow does it. And I was laughing so hard last night because she called and we were just talking normally about fun things, and then at the very end she goes we literally said bye, and then we're about to hang up, and she goes, oh, do you have 2 minutes for a really sad story?
That's
that's how she phrased it. Oh, do you have 2 minutes for a really sad story? And I was like, yeah, like, okay, you know.
Did it live up to the hype?
It did. It was
really
one of those
funny.
things where I woke up today. I was like, I wish I didn't know that story. Like, I don't. I could have said no. I didn't need to know that story. You know. Anyways, but I'm thankful for my mom. She makes me laugh.
Shout out to Russell's mom.
Yeah. I like your mom.
Did I thank? I don't know what my blessing was last week, but I'll double down in case I'm doing it again. Where I met Tova's family.
Yeah.
And Tova's family was all fantastic. I got taken care of in Memphis, And yeah, it's very, very, very sweet.
Yeah.
It's good to meet
That's
her
good.
parents.
Did you actually end up going to Graceland?
We did go to Graceland. So okay, I'm so glad you brought that because I did want to say so. Graceland, this is Elvis's home.
Yes.
This it's so it's such a squeaky clean version of Elvis that it's not that fun. Because it's like first they show you this 8-minute documentary where it's just like Elvis succeeded, and then he died. And you're like, oh, how'd he die at 44? Any drugs involved? There was not one picture of him when he was
Older and fatter.
fat.
Yeah.
Not one picture of him overweight. Every picture of him at like his sexiest. And it was so, it was just such an insane way to, and obviously they're doing it because they're selling merch like crazy, so they're not going to mention when he married a 14-year-old.
Oh,
They're not going to
Oh my God, I
mention
forgot.
drugs.
Yeah.
They had this one thing, he liked collecting guns. Elvis was definitely a guy, maybe he didn't own a Klan robe, but he had some friends in the Klan for sure. And this is just allegedly. And there was this thing, he had a portable siren that he would put on his car. And he would, if someone was speeding, that said he would pull them over, and he would like give them a lecture about why they should not be speeding, and like pretend he was a police officer, and then sign an autograph picture for them.
No.
Which, like,
I think
imagine
there's something
it's
worse than
horrible.
I think it's worse than being a police officer is people who like what do you call that? When you like role play, but like
You're a citizen.
but you're cosplaying.
You're cosplaying
like,
cops.
it's very weird and sad.
I just imagine like you jump the turnstile, someone tackles you to the floor, and you look up, and there's Beyonce in an NYPD outfit, and she's like,
And signs an
"Don't do
autograph?
this," and signs an autograph. I mean,
No,
to be
it
fair,
would be
I
fun.
would be okay with
That
that.
would be fun.
That would be a
Yeah.
good story.
I mean, yeah.
But that's a psychopath.
No,
it's
that's
more
crazy.
like they shared the story. Like Elvis did this thing
But maybe they
sometimes, and I'm like,
didn't.
you mean a crazy thing?
Maybe he did it one time for like
And the doctor was like, I'm trying to go to the hospital. There's been an emergency. And Elvis is like, let me give you an autograph first.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Yes. They pull over and Elvis is like, "Hey there, who can I make it out to? Meanwhile, I'm dead." Like,
You want to make it out to the baby? So Graceland. And also, this would be the thing that Tova's parents paid for it because it was like $75
oh god.
for a tour of someone's house.
No.
And there's a certain degree like where you're just like, we're just looking at a rich person's house.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Like I asked Tova, I was like, what celebrity would you like want to do this to? That you'd be like, I'll pay $75 to walk around their house.
Yeah.
And we couldn't really think of one.
Yeah.
I said John Mulaney. I'm sure it would suck. It'd be like, here's his bedroom.
Yeah.
Like, living it'd be kind of. Well, I know that like in LA they have those Starline tours.
Yeah.
That is so weird.
Yeah.
And like, why would you? How is that legal?
Yeah.
It's
Like,
crazy. But also with Elvis, you couldn't go upstairs. They're like, Elvis didn't let guests upstairs, so we're not going to let you either. And I'm like,
What?
for $75, I want to take a shit on the toilet. He died.
Yeah.
That's the bonus feature I want.
Yeah.
Like, that would be cool. I would do that.
yeah.
I don't like those tours.
I would want to like go into the kitchen and like, I don't know, cut a pepper with his knife or something.
Sure, a little more interactive.
Be him.
Be him.
Also, I can't help but think, especially with someone like Elvis, like they show you these couches, and I'm like, I wonder how much fucking went on this couch. This is the most famous star.
But how
Of all
much
time.
did he even live in that house that long? Did he? I don't know.
yeah, who the fuck knows?
You know, it's like it's one of those things where it's.
But like, I'd rather see like a dirty couch and them being like, that's all. Then they turn on a black light. And
Yeah,
it's covered in
yeah,
cum.
that's what you wanna
interesting.
see.
That's a
Yeah.
human being
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, it's like they cannot win either way because if they like were to sanitize everything, that's not very fun. You know,
Yeah.
keep it as
Yeah.
is, but at the same time, like. You
If there was a
never
tour
know
guide
what
in her
happened.
40s and she was like, yes, I married Elvis in the 50s, and you're like, oh my God,
Oh,
what?
no. Yeah.
You were a baby.
Oh, baby.
Do you have a blessing to close us out?
Yeah, so I really love when like like music streaming things like Spotify and others. They have like the essential, like the curated playlists for like every artist that you could ever want to get into, and they've curated like a playlist of like this is how. I know,
like this is how.
Like
well, it's
listen
it's
to
like
these
any
tracks.
artist. You're like, this is the name of the artist.
Oh, I see.
So they do the essential tracks. For
Yeah.
that.
Oh, I see.
And
Yeah.
they give like, but you could tell that it's not just like a randomized playlist with all their hits. It's like a curated, like, I mean, there are hits, but like oh, this, and then if you like that, then that, and if you get through that, then these, and like it works. Like
Yeah.
you slowly get into the artist.
Yeah.
And then like if you get through that and you've listened to that for like a month, then they have like a part 2 of
I'm gonna
that.
check this out because I need more music in my life. I need to
Yeah.
expand. I've been
Yeah.
stagnated for a
Yeah.
long time.
Well, what you should do on Spotify too, you can, if you know artists that you like, you can go down and you can see what other people like
Right.
related. So you can
Yeah,
be
yeah,
like
yeah.
other artists that are somewhat related, and then you can go down a rabbit hole of like finding other things that way too, or do the Discover Weekly, or
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
Actually, my mom
You know.
is so into that, and her music taste is like so much better than mine at this point. Like she knows all the new Harry Styles pop hits, and I don't. Like, and she learned it from like
Yeah.
the Discover
Discover
on
Weekly.
Friday. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so is there anything you want to plug? This is coming out May 3rd.
May 3rd. Ooh. Well, just that all in May. I'm excited to say that I'll be in a couple of festivals.
Great,
actually.
fantastic.
I'll be at Limestone Comedy Festival.
Awesome.
In Bloomington, Indiana.
Great.
And that's mid-May, and then for 2 days at the end of May, I'll be in Rhode Island, at the Rogue Island.
What days?
Comedy
I'm there Sunday.
Festival. Oh, yeah, that's right. I think I'm there Saturday and Friday.
Okay,
but
cool.
I'll be there I'll be there all weekend. So
Yeah, I think Tova's coming with me.
yeah.
Tova's her manager.
Oh yeah.
It'll be like a big party.
So for me, we just had our monthly show, The Silver Lining. If you weren't there, go fuck yourself. No, please come to the next one, which will be June 5th is the next Silver Lining. Again, that's 8 p.m. at Sesh Comedy Club. This is the first Sunday of every month. I do an hour with 2 comedians, breaking it up to give you a little break. And if it gets big enough, Russell has sworn on his life that we will do a live podcast before the show. So keep supporting it. Find the link to sign up for my email list or my text list in the description of the episode. I am coming this Thursday to Dallas. Then I'll be in Houston that weekend. Weekend after that, I'll be Helium St. Louis. And then I think I take a weekend off, and then I'm at Comics Mohegan Sun, and then the Rogue Island Comedy Festival. And remember, if you're listening and you go, I don't live in these places, you know someone who lives there, so fucking tell them.
Yeah.
I felt meaner than I meant
It
it to
did.
be.
It felt
but guys,
really
you gotta
mean.
fucking pick it
It
up. I mean,
felt
dear God.
really mean.
You know what it's like? I just did that college gig in Wisconsin where there were 2 people in the audience.
I know. I saw that
I've never
picture.
flown that far. I've done small shows. I've done shows for one person. I've never taken 2 separate flights and taken an
That's
Uber and rented a hotel
brutal.
for a show that small.
That's brutal.
Their tickets, based on what I was getting paid for that college, their tickets were $850 each. And I told them, I said,
Looks like a
you
nice
could have
big
fucking,
space,
you could have
too.
gone backstage at a Beyonce concert. you could have had Beyonce tackle you to the floor and give you a ticket for
man.
jumping the turnstile for this amount of money. Is there an Uncle Function
Yes,
show?
Saturday, May 14th, Asylum NYC. We have special guest Moses Storm.
Moses Storm, who's going to be on our podcast too.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a fun show. Well, I don't know yet, but it'll be fun.
All right. Well, that was that. And if you have a baby, even if you think they're perfect,
They're not.
They're not.
They're not.
They're not.
This is the downside.
1, 2, 3.